Hey, what's up, Nerf Herders? It's been a long time, and there's stuff to talk about here for sure. So, I'm gonna get back in the groove making videos. I'm still gonna do Blu-ray stuff, talk about movies, unboxings, and all that stuff. But I gotta join the Star Wars discussion that's going on because Star Wars has been my life for such a long time. I first saw Star Wars when I was 8 years old. I rented the three originals before special editions on New Year's Eve, stayed up, watched the entire trilogy, and that was my first experience with Star Wars. And then they re-released the special editions in theaters. I went and saw episode 1. I was 13 when episode 1 came out, and that was the first movie that I had ever camped out for. So, it's just, there's so much that has been my past and history with Star Wars, and it's still such an important part of my life. I traveled all the Star Wars conventions. I've been to the last 4 celebrations, going to Orlando and Anaheim. And now we're going to have the next one coming up here in Chicago in April, which I'm pumped for because that's pretty much right in my backyard. So it's really cool to see that, coming home here. And I got to get into this because I love Star Wars so much, and I am so passionate about Star Wars. And it's really, it's my gateway drug, man. Like, Star Wars is what got me into basically everything that I love. And it's because it wasn't the popular thing when I was a kid yet. When I grew up and I fell in love with Star Wars, it was me and a couple of other kids wearing Star Wars shirts at school all the time. And it was so hard to find Star Wars shirts then, and it was just, it's always held such a dear part to my heart. And I love the fact that it's huge, and it's always been a big thing, but now it's just commercially everywhere. There's so many different companies, Funko Pops and t-shirts you can find everywhere. I mean, it's just everywhere, and there's nothing wrong with any of that. But I do have an issue with where Star Wars has gone as of late, and it does bother me. And it's really because of the fan base, how divided we are as a fan base right now. And I feel like you've got people that are on one side of this Last Jedi discussion and people that are on another side of this Last Jedi discussion. And I mean, really, the fact of the matter is, The Last Jedi is a polarizing film, and it sucks that it is, but that is what it was. And this is my experience with The Last Jedi. I saw that opening night, and I have never felt so indifferent about anything in Star Wars in my entire life. And some of the stuff they did even with the comic books. I started reading the comic books, and I had to stop reading them because they were doing stupid stuff like Luke and Vader having a confrontation with lightsabers between A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back. I was like, that's it. I can't read this anymore because they're going into things that, it's too much fleshing out. And The Last Jedi, over everything, has been the most polarizing thing for me and the fan base, without a doubt. And it's just very sad that has happened. So I saw The Last Jedi opening night. I walked out and I had no idea how to feel. In my heart, I was like, I don't think I like this movie. I almost feel like I hate this movie and I despise it. And I want to rip it to shreds. And then in my head, I'm trying to rationalize everything that they're doing and make sense of it so I can find a place to love it. And I waited 5 or 6 days before going to see it again. When The Force Awakens came out, I had seen that movie probably 4 times within the first 5 or 6 days that it came out because it immediately gravitated to me. And I know people talk about it being a soft reboot, whatever you want to say. The Force Awakens, regardless of how you feel it was, as far as it being a soft reboot or not, was an extremely exciting Star Wars film and a return back to form. It's what they needed to do to reset the groundwork so they could continue on with the new story. They had to bring all Star Wars fans together and give you something that you love and that you like to remember and that feeling in your heart of being a kid. So they gave us something familiar. That's what needed to be done. And The Last Jedi was to pick up that mantle, and now we can get on with something. And it's so disappointing for me because when I went back and saw The Last Jedi 5 or 6 days after that, I started drinking the Kool-Aid. 100% was drinking the Kool-Aid with this movie, and I was like, oh, man, actually, I really do enjoy this. And it would, come to find out it's because I was making excuses for myself, ultimately. I went in not being a Star Wars fan. When I went and saw it the first time, I was anticipating, I'm a Star Wars fan, I'm just ready, just throw it all at me. And going into it like that, I was really disappointed. Going back into it, trying to watch it just as, a film, and my love for film, not Star Wars, but just my love for film, I found things that I was able to excuse and enjoy with the movie. And it's beautifully shot. You can't take that away. It's probably the most gorgeously shot Star Wars film that has been made. It's beautiful. But I stopped drinking the Kool-Aid. And I saw it 3 times in the theaters. The third time I went, I was feeling a little bit indifferent again, but I said, all right, I'm going to wait for this to come out on Blu-ray. And now, since seeing this on Blu-ray and watching it multiple times, it's been out forever now, but now after watching this more, all of these things that I was trying to excuse myself for, I can't do it anymore. There is so much that is wrong with this movie, just as a film and just as being a Star Wars fan, because I feel like you can look at this in 2 different lenses. You can look at this as your Star Wars fandom and just like freak out mode and just fanboyisms, and then you can look at this as just being a competent film. And I was polarized between both of those for a while, and now there's so much about this movie that just can't be ignored. And there are things in this movie that I could have an educated discussion with somebody about. I mean, really everything I could, but there's things that could be excused. You know, a lot of people got an issue with Princess Leia flying through space. That's fine. I don't have an issue with that personally, but it's one of those things where it's like people that didn't like it and they thought it was really goofy, I can understand that. From the other side, where it was just, in my opinion, a beautiful thing to see her in touch with the Force like that, it didn't have as silly of an appeal to me as a lot of other people took it, but I can understand that. That's okay. That's something that people, I think, can meet common ground on. Luke Skywalker's death at the end of the movie, I think people can find common ground with that. Whether you love it or you hate it, you can understand each side. But there are things in this movie that are entirely inexcusable. And I'm going to do another video talking a little bit more in depth about stuff. But just to point one thing out, for instance, that to me, it's unexcusable to the point of how did nobody say anything about this when they were going over the script or in the middle of filming it. Tons of things in this movie, but just one thing that I want to point out, just because this is the first thing that really stood out to me that made me start questioning more things in the movie, outside of Luke tossing the lightsaber, which we can get into. But what bothered me, and we'll talk about more things, but what really bothered me is Rose Tico at the end of this film kamikazing into Finn and knocking him off of his trajectory to take out this death laser that's going to annihilate the base where the last remaining rebels are hiding in right now. Here's my issue with it. My issue with it is, first and foremost, by doing that, you're risking both of your lives anyways. But we'll skip that argument. We'll just say everything's fine as it turned out to be. Second in line is Rose has no idea in hell that Luke Skywalker is about to show up in that base and walk out to stall the First Order and create a scene. She has no knowledge of this at all. So for all she knows, by knocking Finn off of his trajectory to stop him from really saving the Resistance, she is instead putting the entire Resistance in harm's way, and they're basically all going to die. If it's not for Luke coming out, it's over, man. Like, it's over. And that's so bad narratively to skip over something like that. That's such a huge thing that how did that not stand out to anybody? And not only that, they're miles away from this base, assuming a minimum a mile. They've been driving off or, cruising off in these ships for, how long now, going towards these AT-AT walkers or these guerrilla walkers and stuff. But Rose and Finn were able to make it back to the base. I mean, come on. There's so much to that. How did nobody go, oh, look, there's 2 people right there. Boom, blast them, gone. There's so much that just didn't work with that you're just expecting, as the filmmaker, just expecting us to just forget and excuse. And even if you wipe everything away, even if you wipe it away, oh, okay, fine, they can make it back to the base, they don't die from the kamikaze, and, her running into him, fine, excuse all of that shit. That's totally fine. It still would never change the fact that Rose did that with no knowledge of Luke coming out to give them any chance of escaping. For all she knows, she just murdered the entire Resistance, and now Rose and Finn are stuck out here in the middle of this salt planet with a shitload of the First Order around them. To me, there's no debate to that. It's entirely inexcusable. That's an inexcusable part of this movie, and there's a lot of parts like that, and I will do another video talking about that. But I just wanted to really say it's a bummer that the fans are so divided with this, and it's just, you got so many people that I feel are Last Jedi sympathizers, and it's okay if you like the movie. There's nothing wrong with you liking the movie. but it's not a good movie, and it's just not. And it's because of all of these things that are inexcusable. There's so much in this film that you just cannot make an excuse for. And there's a lot in this film that creates a lot of discussion and debate, which I'm perfectly okay with. There's nothing wrong with that. If that's what Rian Johnson was setting out to do, is create discussions, I think it's good. It's good to have discussions about these things, but there's too much in this movie that's inexcusable. More on that to come, but you know, it's a bummer that the fans are so divided. I grew up with Star Wars. When I was walking through school, you see another kid with a Star Wars shirt on, and there was just a bond right there. It was just immediately just like, yeah, you know what's up, man. Like, you know what's up. And even going to Star Wars celebrations, you know, started going to Celebration 5 in Orlando. It was my first celebration. Celebration 5, then 6, then Anaheim, then back to Orlando 2 years ago, and, you know, of course, going back to Chicago here now in April. And even going to those celebrations, there was so much unity in the fandom, and especially in Anaheim. Going out to Anaheim when we knew The Force Awakens was coming, and like camping out for that panel and waiting for everything, it was just a mind-blowing experience. And now you don't know when you see fans anymore, because there's so many hostile fans out there. And I've got strong opinions about The Last Jedi, but I can have a discussion with anybody about it. It's not going to make me feel differently about any of you if you love The Last Jedi. That's perfectly fine. All right, but I do have some strong opinions about things that happen in that movie, and I think we should all be able to have discussions about that. It's good to create, you know, dialogue and discuss things, especially with Star Wars, because Star Wars is more than just movies. It's more than that. It's really kind of a lifestyle in a sense. I mean, I've adapted my lifestyle around Star Wars, and it kills me. It just kills me with things in The Last Jedi. It doesn't ruin Star Wars for me, but it really just bums me out, man. So my purpose here in talking about Star Wars is to create some good discussions, you know, with everything. The prequels, the original trilogy, you know, the new movies with Disney, everything. I want to have great discussions about these things and try to bring the fandom back together and unite everybody, because it's okay to love The Last Jedi or hate it. It's okay. It's okay. I think as Star Wars fans, we need to find better common ground with everything instead of pointing fingers everywhere and, you know, not coming together when really we should be. This is the time we should come together. We're being tested right now, and we should be coming together. So there's a lot more to come on this. I want to talk a lot about this stuff, and I've been wanting to talk about this for a long time here. The Geeks and Gamers channel, you know, Jeremy over there, I've been watching his videos for a little while now. And, you know, he's very opinionated as well, which is great. And I want to join this discussion and start talking with people about this. And, you know, I still want to do what I've always been doing on my channel, but I want to progress a little bit and start doing some things with this too. And especially with Star Wars being such an important part of my life, I think it's important to have these discussions and speak my mind. So please let me know how you guys feel about any of this. Just leave some comments. A lot of videos to come. I want to talk a lot about this stuff, and I think the current state of Star Wars and where it's going is also very important to talk about. It's not just about what The Last Jedi has done and, you know, the Solo movie. There's a lot that needs to be discussed to fix this moving forward. There's clearly issues in Lucasfilm. There's clearly problems going on with things. There's no doubt about that. There's no denying that there are some issues going on here. Kathleen Kennedy's been 100% out of the picture. Everything with Rian Johnson's trilogy has been hush-hush. There's definitely stuff going on behind these closed doors right now, and it's not in a good place. And all I want to do is bring the fandom together as best as possible and unite, and let's just get great Star Wars. And if Last Jedi is great Star Wars for you, that's fine. It wasn't for me. It wasn't for me so much that going back to The Force Awakens now, it compromises things for me in The Force Awakens and makes that a less enjoyable viewing experience. So, again, more on that to come, because I definitely want to share my thoughts on a lot of this stuff. But, you know, I appreciate you guys watching, all the support. Please subscribe if you are new to the channel. A lot of info to come, lots to talk about. Please join the discussion, leave some comments down below, and may the Force be with you all. We'll catch you guys next time.